Let's bring in South Carolina Republican Senator Tim Scott. He joins us right now from D.C. Senator, good morning to you.
Thank you. Good morning. I hope you all are doing well.
We're doing great. Thank you very much, considering the circumstances. Tell us about the Justice Act, which you have been working on with the White House, with law enforcement, with anybody who you can talk to, it seems like. Over the last couple of weeks, you've been trying to figure out what people need. What's in it?
Yes. Well, we wanted to make sure that we listen to everyone, because there's this false dichotomy, this binary choice between law enforcement and communities of color, and that's just a false choice. You can actually serve America and bring the two groups together. And what we do in the Justice Act is we do exactly the same thing. We take care of police reform. We have accountability and transparency. We focus on gathering more information, more data, so that we can direct training in the direction that actually de-escalates. It gives the responsibility to intervene in certain situations. We talk about grants and resources to encourage departments to come out with the conclusions, or come to the conclusions that we know are in the best interest of the law enforcement officer and the suspect. And finally, we deal with the conversation around transparency, so that there's more information through the department to the state, to the federal level, on what is necessary for us to have the highest performing, character-driven law enforcement agencies that we all want.
Right. You're not talking about defund and dismantle. You're talking about making things better in 2020. It's not by a long shot.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you saw last night, Tim Scott, but you came up with James Clyburn. And, of course, the Democrats coming up with a new bill. He's going to have a lot to do with that. And hopefully he's going to get together with you and the executive orders and make everything better. But he played a soundbite to Brett Baer of you, going over everything that was accomplished by the Trump administration. Here it is. Trump's accomplishment with the African-American community, from permanent HBCUs to opportunity zones. That's all a fact. But yesterday, he also talked about what you'd done with criminal justice reform. So they had this exchange. He rolled in your soundbite. And here's what James Clyburn said.
None of that's true. The fact of the matter is...
none of that's true?
None of that is true. I went to an HBCU. This is not the most money that's ever gone to HBCUs. That is just absolutely...
So what about the
true.
First Step Act or opportunity zones?
How long have we been trying to get these things done?
Congressman, he did it. I mean, the administration did it. It wasn't the Obama administration that did it. It was the Trump administration with Congress.
You want to. I didn't come here to argue with you, but you can argue it if you want to. It's just not true. I give credit where credit is due, but I know better than that.
I don't know how he can deny the HBCU grants, and the First Step Act was signed by the administration. Senator, where do we go with this?
I'm not going to respond to that, because it's nearly impossible. Let me just restate the facts. According to the head of the United Negro College Fund, who is speaking in front of the presidents and chancellors of the HBCUs in the fly-in this year, he said that this is the highest funding that the HBCUs have ever had, number one. Number two, he said, without any question, in the CARES Act, this is my words, not his, in the CARES Act, they asked for $1 billion. They received $1 billion of additional funding on top of the best in the history of the HBCUs. In addition to that, we passed legislation that strengthened the Department of Defense and HBCU funding. On top of that, we have opportunity zones where a number of the HBCUs are located in or contiguous to, which allows for the development of student housing at a far more affordable cost, and that's happening. There are contracts right now under consideration in Orangeburg, South Carolina, because of the opportunity zone legislation signed by the president. We won't even go to the fact that for the first time we've had more research on sickle cell anemia. We won't talk about the fact that pre-COVID-19, we had the lowest unemployment rate for African Americans. We won't even talk about the fact that not only did we have the lowest unemployment rate, we had an increase in the black workers' participation in the workforce that was increasing. We came into the administration with around 41% African Americans owning homes. We took it up to about 43 to 44%. that 2 points difference is significant when you're trying to close the wealth gap in America. What we should not do is demonize progress because we don't like the President of the United States. What we should not do is make personal issues into political conversations that are inconsistent from a fact pattern. This is not something that I'm saying. This is something we can all research. And the words that I'm quoting come from the head of the United Negro College Fund, comes from the head of different HBCUs, because I've had those conversations. I was present in the room when they told me that they've never had permanent funding. The president said yesterday during the executive order, they keep coming back because no one has ever made it permanent. It's permanent now because President Trump signed it. I don't know where there is a dispute. You can't dispute the facts. You can look them up, but you cannot dispute them.
So, Senator, yesterday the president sat down with some of the family members of recent victims, and privately, I know you sat down with them too. The president said that your loved ones will not die in vain. He promises to fight for justice. He said we grieve together and we heal together. Here are some of those family members. Listen to this.
I think the president was very receiving. She was very compassionate. He did assure each family member that we would and should expect change.
I know we expressed a lot more could have been done. I mean, we're thankful for anything at this point, but we still have a very long way to go.
We're behind radical change. We don't think either bill fully represents the radical change that we would like to see. So we want to take as much from each of these bills to get a bipartisan bill that is as powerful as the injustice that we're facing.
So that last gentleman was the attorney for those families. What was your meeting like with them? Can you describe the scene and tell us what your conversation was?
Absolutely. Ainsley, I had the good fortune of being with the president and the attorney general when that meeting happened behind closed doors at the White House. I had them back over to my office later on to watch the judiciary hearing. You would have been so incredibly proud of your president during that meeting. He was patient, he was kind, he was compassionate, and the families were passionate. This was a room without tension, but it was a room overflowing with passion, and that passion was met with compassion from the president. As each person told their story, as we got towards the halfway point, there were a few of the incidents that had not received enough attention. And the president turns to the AG and says, fix that. And he said it again. And then towards the end, he says to AG Barr, follow through on this. It was a strong meeting. Right. And frankly, as you hear the comments from the family members, what you are hearing is someone who came into a room with low expectations, who left the room with high expectations. I closed the meeting and simply said, we're going to live up to what we've said today. And the president started at the executive order press conference and has continued since then to direct AG Barr to follow through on so many of the tragedies that may have been avoidable. And we're working through the executive order and the legislation to have more training around de-escalation, to bring more light to the situation so as to provide real solutions so that fewer families are sitting in the White House talking about the lost loved ones. But I thought he did a fantastic job, and I think the family members were very pleased with his response to their concerns.
Well, Senator, you certainly are the man of the hour, the force behind the Justice Act. Thank you very much for spending a little time on this Wednesday explaining it to folks as it is presented later today in the U.S. Senate. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
God bless.
All right.
You too.